And thank you all very much indeed for choosing this session. So we know that employers have been leaning into home lives. We can't unsee what we saw during the pandemic, and quite a lot of what we saw was family life. And so employers leaning into life outside of work necessarily means leaning into all of those stages of family life, and sometimes some of the stages that we haven't thought so much about before. So what we've promised to look at is to have a culture that engages all of those stages of family life, to think about what keeps new parents engaged and ongoing parents, as well as carers, which we'll look at, and to explore that hidden link, or not so hidden perhaps, between quiet quitting and the great unretirement. So we'll come back to that. So for those of you who don't know Bright Horizons, we do work with some of you in this room. I know I've met some people already today who are our clients, which is not surprising because we work with 1,200 organisations globally and over 420 in the UK. And we provide everything from things like backup care solutions when care falls over on a given day to ongoing care. We have 300 community nurseries in the UK. So if you're not using the services in a corporate way, some of you may have your children, if you have children, in a Bright Horizons nursery. We also provide a lot of online toolkits for parental leave transitions, for ongoing family life. So that's the kind of thing we do. And so that's the perspective behind what we are talking about today, because we are constantly driven by the innovation of the clients that we work with. And there's been a lot of that. There's been a lot of pushing, progressing, looking for what's new, what's next. How do we keep people engaged? So it's a combination of the well-being drive, understanding how life outside of work needs to be in good order for people to be well at work and vice versa. And also the retention. How do we keep people engaged? How do we be the employer of choice? We recently did a survey. We do a lot of primary research. And one of the things we did recently, we had nearly 3,800 parents, working parents, both those engaged with Bright Horizons and beyond, answering various questions about their childcare needs and how they were changing. But one of the questions that we asked was, which of these apply? And we found that over half, well over half, 56% said that they're more able to talk about their parenting challenges at work now than previously. They're 48% more able to take charge of their working pattern to fit around family life. And interestingly, and I don't know if you've seen this, anecdotally, I felt this question was going to land and it got 42% a good response. I'm more able to leave my desk in a hybrid working situation for childcare pickups and drop-offs. So there's a lot changed. And if that is surprising, then perhaps more surprising still are the sectors where it's more possible to talk now. Energy and utilities, 71% said that, so way above this. Banking and finance, 66%. Technology, 60% said more able to talk about family challenges at work. And more able to leave my desk for pickups. Non-profit said 62%, tech said 58%, banking and finance 57% more able to leave their desks. So it's fairly widespread, and it's in sectors where high performance is essential. So the world's changing. The quiet quitting and great unretirement connection. Well, quiet quitting is a way of people making a statement that something other than work matters in their lives. It's about pulling in the boundaries to say, there is something else in my life, by the way. And that's often family in its many diverse and varied forms. So quiet quitting is really a way of saying to the employer, what are you doing for the whole of me? So it's, to keep people engaged that we feel are quiet quitting, it can well be about how do we serve the rest of life and make that smooth and make those moments that matter in family life transitions, becoming a parent, becoming a carer and so on, how do we make those better? And the unretirement, a lot of people left the workforce with a change in heart around what mattered. Now they are in some numbers coming back due to the cost of living crisis, figured out all the finances didn't quite add up when everything changed and went upwards. So people are now coming back, but they've had that change of heart. So they are now looking to employers saying, what are you doing for me that fits in with my new perception of life? Another of our pieces of research, the Work+Family Snapshot, is a survey of our client employees, so the people that work for the organisations that we serve. This is this year's research. It had over 1,500 responses. These are the figures for people aged 18 to 34. We gave them a whole bunch of questions. Does this apply to you? And they were very mixed and varied. 67% said family is now more important than it used to be. 39% of that age group said that career and career progression now matters. I'm more ambitious in my career than previously. So that's a kind of sense of having it all. And it was also widespread. That was a high level in that generation, but across the board, 58% of all the respondents said family is now more important than it used to be. And the previous year, in 2021, 48% said that. So it's mounting. It wasn't just a pandemic phenomenon. And this year, 30% said career matters more to me now. Only 15% said that. So that's doubled when it was 2021. So people are having this sense that I definitely want to progress in my career now. People are becoming more ambitious than that sort of pandemic lull might have led us to believe. But they are also wanting life outside of work to be really recognised. So what can we do? So let's look at those over 50s, thinking about the great unretirement, and we'll look at the other age groups in a moment. Flexibility is huge. In that age group, people wanted flexibility of location as much as time, because you can imagine if you're caring for an older relative, for example, being able to be in their home for a week while they have an operation or something like that, and work from there and deliver. Carers are often really highly motivated to deliver and perform at work, because being in work is the one thing that might keep us sane in that situation. If you've ever been in that situation, I can certainly say that working is something you want to hang on to, but it can be quite difficult if we don't have the flexibility. So that's an easy win that we're hopefully all in touch with. Meaning, when we asked people, or we offered them the chance to agree to a statement, I've been thinking more about the meaning and direction of my life, it was 2/3 of those over 50 who were agreeing with that. So it's that sense of, who is my employer? What are we doing together? What's the purpose that we're achieving together that matters to that older population as much as it famously matters to Gen Z and millennials? Support with adult care. If you can, when care breaks down, step in, for example, with backup care, and be, in that moment of crisis, be the employer that helps somebody find care at short notice, or helps them navigate the care maze with advice and information, then you're stepping in at a real moment that otherwise things would unravel. So that's the kind of thing that counts as well. And support with grandchildren. We talk about the sandwich generation, being a parent and a carer. Many people, are in multiple layers of care and support. And so helping grandparents to achieve flexibility, for example, or access care solutions can be increasingly important. For new parents, this is an area that's been in huge growth in recent years, and it continues to develop. People need flexibility with career progression. They need, to consider things like job shares as well as part-time, or to make sure that part-time work is quality work, that people stay on the career ladder. It can be all too easy to get onto what's sometimes referred to as the mommy track if we end up in part-time work, regardless of gender, because there are plenty of men who want to be flexible around family life these days, so it's not a gendered thing. Strong on-ramps and off-ramps, so helping people leave well to go on leave, helping people come back effectively. Now, I'll draw on a couple of client examples here, people that have been speaking publicly recently about the kind of work that we do together. So Mirka Slater at Meta was recently talking about the one-to-one coaching program that they have in place. And they piloted it at first to say, do people at Meta actually need and want this help? Surely they're capable people. Do we need to offer people coaching to go off on leave and return and through that process? 80% higher confidence was reported as a result of that. So added confidence, before versus or after versus before, 80% higher, and that was the pilot, so that's now rolling out. In Marsh McLennan, so Leah Gray from Marsh McLennan, on the other hand, has been recently talking about their group coaching program. So they have a group coaching program where people can, really bond and exchange challenges, find solutions together to all of those difficult, influential conversations that need to happen during the parent transition. But at the end of that group coaching session, they have an HR Q&A. The HR people aren't in the room for the group coaching and come in for a Q&A at the end, so you kind of get all of the sort of bases covered. So that kind of thing is happening and becoming pretty widespread now. Can I ask how many of you have any kind of parental leave coaching or buddying or internal mentoring program internally? So it's becoming quite widespread. Don't forget the managers, because it takes two to tango. So, that conversation that's going to take place between the individual and the manager is really key. So equipping managers with checklists. We have a parental leave toolkit that sort of handholds and gives checklists, for planning a keeping in touch day and sort of the first meeting once they return from leave and things like that. But you can equally develop checklists internally to give to managers for those key meetings. So well-supported leave, 26 weeks full pay is now becoming fairly well established across a lot of organisations. We do a parental leave benchmark every 2 years, and it's been increasing. And of course, childcare, and especially in a cost of living crisis, any support that you can provide with childcare is going to go a long way, and I'll perhaps say a bit more about that. Nurseries. So Jared Hindle from Cisco was also recently talking about our relationship. We provide an on-site nursery for Cisco, which is hugely popular. And if you have an on-site nursery, you can make use of the workplace nursery exemption, which means that instead of the £2,000 of tax-free childcare, which we should all be promoting to our people, that's a government offering that every parent can access. And well, if you're below certain earning limits, but many parents can access that. We should all be promoting that to our employees. But beyond that £2,000, people can save quite a lot more by saving the tax and NI on childcare through the workplace nursery exemption. And interestingly, that can also apply if you have a partnership with nurseries. So if you have sites where people are coming in and spending quite a lot of their time, perhaps you have frontline workers or people that have to be in particular sites to serve staff, and you can develop a partnership with a nursery near there, then you can get the workplace tax exemption on that as well, the nursery exemption. So the employee is saving tax and NI, the employer saves NI, so it can even work out as cost neutral. So that's quite an important one to be aware of. And when we surveyed in the Work and Family Snapshot, the employees, 86% said that a workplace nursery improves productivity, and 89% said it smooths the return from parental leave. So, there are quite hard benefits from that. Several of you we saw had coaching, mentoring, or an internal buddy scheme, something of that sort, through parental leave. These are the kind of things that people find really important during this transition. So being able to have more influential conversations, these are the kind of things that we should be buddying people up for, or coaching or mentoring through parental leave. Ability to plan ahead, obviously to have the practical skills and know how to manage the transition, but to feel also valued and supportive. And when you put, the reason this one's usually the lowest increase is we do this before and after coaching, but people have already found out before, when we ask them at the outset, that they're getting this program. So their sense of being valued leaps up, and then you add a bit on top of that once they've experienced the program. But these are the kind of things people want. The coaching program should help people think about keeping their career on track, not just managing the transition and getting to work sort of without too much baby sick on the suit kind of thing. It really is about, thinking strategically. And the ongoing parent journey, what do we do for that? That's really on the rise, I would say. A lot of people, and we saw in the room, have woken up to the parent transition as being a watershed moment when people fall out of the workplace. But ongoing parents have absolutely come into view during the pandemic. So flexibility, again, with career progression, we've talked about that. Care solutions, we've talked about that. A real innovation during the pandemic is to take backup care and make it much more inclusive towards parents of older children who might not need backup care. If the school's closed on a day or the child's mildly ill and can't go in, they might be just fine at home, especially if the person's working remotely. But actually, a lot of employers have moved us into the space of virtual tutoring because there's a huge concern about educational catch-up. So it's not only about now, backup care can be seen as an absence management tool, because it certainly does that. People are working when they couldn't otherwise. But now it's stepped into the well-being space, and it's become a way of bridging that gap of educational catch-up Plus, in a cost of living crisis, 73% of the parents who used the virtual tutoring said they would have spent family money on it otherwise. So, they become extremely grateful for that. Allies and great managers, we talked about the role of managers. Lavinia Groves at City was recently talking with us about the really crucial role played by their senior sponsor in the City Families Matter network. So if you have a network, how many of you have some sort of network for parents or carers or families? That's low-hanging fruit, because that is such a great engagement boost to create a network, whether it's online or meeting in person or both, where people can exchange views. It changes the culture and they can find solutions together. And if you can have a senior sponsor who is visibly involved, then that makes a huge difference. We talked about educational catch-up. These are the figures. So well over half are concerned about educational catch-up. This was in our Modern Families Index survey, which is a general population survey. And that's, again, not gendered. That 55% concerned about educational catch-up, that was 62% of men within that and 47% of women. So it's very broad. Some people are now doing without childcare occasionally or regularly, partly due to the cost of living crisis. They say it's a struggle, but they can't find the care they need or they can't afford it. So if we can step into this space and be the person that makes that okay when care falls over as an employer, it not only means the person's working, but it's a huge boost in terms of engagement. And in this case, hats off to the NHS, and you may have caught them. They've been in finalists in quite a few of the HR awards recently and highly commended in some, as well as sort of childcare sector awards, for providing backup care at that moment of crisis. So just a little look at what they have to say.
Hi, I'm a medical consultant working for the NHS in London and also a single mom of 2 little girls without any family support in the UK.
I'm Oliver Warren. I'm a consultant colorectal surgeon here at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, where I'm also clinical director of surgery. My wife is also a full-time GP in the NHS.
Hi, my name is Lucy and I'm an A&E doctor.
Hi, my name is Mehreen. I work in clinical imaging department of West Middlesex University Hospital, NHS Trust.
Throughout the pandemic, work and family space backup care was the biggest support that my employer could have offered to me. I'm ever so grateful.
And I have used backup care on 3 or 4 occasions over the last 12 to 18 months. So on each occasion when we've had cause to rely on it, it's made a huge difference, not just to us, but also to our patients. No NHS commitments were cancelled.
As a mother and a doctor, I often struggle with very busy shifts, which are a lot of the times in unsocial hours, and arranging childcare is usually very complicated. I think this is an excellent thing for everyone who is a parent and works in the NHS.
And I'm very thankful to my trust for providing the staff benefit.
This is outstanding and win for society in the NHS, because none of our commitments were cancelled. Everyone's still got their operations and got seen in GP clinic. So a big thumbs up from us.
So that was Chelsea and Westminster Hospitals Foundation Trust. There's a real innovation here of going into sectors where traditionally these kind of benefits were just not the norm. They were reserved for, the more high performance, not that the NHS isn't high performance, of course it is, but they were more in the banking, law firms and that sort of thing. They were the original heartland. It's now becoming much more widespread into frontline workers as our perception shifts of who really needs to be at work when. It's everybody.